Soji Jonala, Chanju Badu, Dani Chazuchi, Dagi Jinzo Jibe Tsonamji, Dola Penjin Sanje Drupa Shu. Soji Jonala, Chanju Badu, Dani Chazuchi, Dagi Jinzo Jibe Tsonamji, Dola Penjin Sanje Drupa Shu. Soji Chonala, Chanju Badu, Dani Chazuchi, Dagi Jinzo Jibe Tsonamji, Dola Penjin Sanje Dropa Shu. Devadan, Devi Judan, Dembar Juji, Dunye Dan, Dunye Gi, Judan Tewa Juji, Dunye Mebe, Devadan, Mindewa Juji, Nirin Chadan, Nidan, Tewe Tanyan Shembola, Nebar Juji. Simjan Tanje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Demba Juji Dunye Dan Dunye Ge Judan Tewa Juji Dunye Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindewa Juji Niren Chadan Nidan Tewe Tonyon Chimola Nebar Juji Simjan Tanje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Demba Juji Dunye Dan Dunye Ge Judan Tewa Juji Dunye Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindewa Juji Niren Chadan Nidan Tewe Tanyan Shembol Nebar Juji. So, I hope all of you are doing well. Nazo devo in chang kandis. So initially I was worried that you might fall sick, but in between I myself fell sick. So now my pain has subsided a lot. Before, in between 15 minutes, I used to get like a pang of pain, but now it's much better now. So were you able to have a good discussion in the few sessions? So I'm sure you had a lot of dialogues and debates, and I'm sure maybe many questions too. So if there is anything you still want to address, questions, doubts?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Question, Tisha, sir.
Tengunima zenda sojo dila chiwa yes. Tine nganzogi lam nga bola jora. Tego la chiwa tingi de sons. Nganzogi gomlam la di ani thonglam da ani jorlam gi jelam legi doas. Di gomlam di ani thonglam da jorlam gi jesu lego e jumsen chiris.
Thonglam da jelam. Jesu lego jizat nga homida. Ine ya ta gomlam la di gomlam la ya ko guda mambu jira. Ine ta de tende ani gomlam di la nyansilen sabi jela ani kasang jo milolal thora sajo ta khande dine tambo cholam ani joram ani thonam ani thonam ge khang thomba de ani chinangi gombar chewa do tende ingir samtra.
So I cannot specifically say why exactly is it the case that the path of meditation comes after the path of seeing, path of preparation. But when we look at the order of these paths, it starts from the path of accumulation, then the path of preparation, then the path of seeing. And I think it is the case that at the path of seeing, whatever insight, true insight that you are able to achieve, then you must meditate on that insight at the path of meditation.
I had a question as well about the five paths. If they are, how to think about them? Are they consecutive? Like one path follows the path before, or there's a way that different practitioners are on different paths at the same time?
Tini korang tiyo di an lam nga di kola yin sirwa. Ini lam nga bu di rim shindu chini, ini lam thangbo tsong lam tini jor lam rim shindu chini, chigi jela chik ini dim gore baya sirwa. Tema ina ini nyamlemba chigi ini tui chik do yora, lam nga bu duwe yor baya si.
Ta tsong lam, tada pichi parin ru do goyo da khawar dura. Pina nga tso tangpo chigi soso ichi ta tongye da tanda tongya la chema sonang ku tso cheba chenji masa na ra tanda kale khabara. Tanda insa ani tanda pina nga tso ke tsona kosa ya tso loba chenji sa chida nga tso lojong cheba kosa genda tso sungu da kina tso la sonang bi jojo ma cho na ani tanda nga tso ke chik ta lojong che shi ke tso sa ya la su yora. Tanda di la ani nja sim dunda ndo res la di kala tambo chigi nga tso ta tongye to toya da tanda ya chi milo la toya la da yin bachira. Nga tso laba lonyi cheba la ya ani tso ya po sa koro sungu da. Tanda insa ani so sa ani tanda nga tso tongye tongwa la ani jolam la yang mambu yota choyo tse mo zoba chocho la mambu zudo na pe mambu yora tanda chinsa la do shisha yora.
So now at the outset, maybe it's a little bit difficult to understand that one must traverse these paths in a temporal sequence from one path to the next. But if we think about it in this manner, then it makes sense that in order for one to come to directly perceive emptiness as such, then it takes a lot of merit. It takes a lot of accumulation of merit and wisdom to effectively come to directly perceive emptiness. And I think that's the reason my teachers, when we were young, used to advise us in this manner, that let alone coming to a direct perception of emptiness itself, but with regards to your own spiritual study, then even if that study in itself constitutes accumulation of merit, but side by side it is important to accumulate merit and to establish sort of a balanced approach towards our practice.
What would be the guidance on meditation or not meditation? On meditation, since it's number 4 and the first being.
So maybe Geshema also said that at this turn, when we are talking about the path of meditation, it's a really high level of meditation at this point, and as such, there are different levels in the path of meditation too, such as the stage of heat, the stage of peak, and so forth, but we wouldn't really go into it.
Nina tanda nga tso gom je la ya chi yora. Agi gomlam da tinda dagi marasandra. Agi gomlam ko gula ya da tanda pa ting sabu dona pe mo doya ra. Nina tanda nga na tso chi gom je la di kala pena nga tso ki unjungu ro chi goma ina susu ki namto di pa shilo la ma shoya shi tarwa. Pena pe namto shilo shiro yu la pa ii dini ji ina. Ani dinda yu namto kaya ki chi di nga tso ki karo chi kola na di unjungu goma ina ra. U ma tang song, tangi u ya lian song, di kala chi po chi kala sen shawa ina kali susu ki sen di tsi dago je chuya la pento da. Ra. Ani tile ya tsi ya dosun ani chi mita pada, ani chi dame pada, ta kali dinda gome ra. Ra.
So it is important to understand the path of meditation, and the meditation in the path of meditation is not equal to the meditation that we practice, because at the path of meditation is solely focused on emptiness, and as such, it is sort of a high level of meditation. Whereas, if we look at the term part of meditation and take it to encompass all forms of meditation, then that doesn't really make sense. For example, even breath meditation becomes a part of meditation. That's not the case at all. So, for example, breath meditation, when we practice it's a technique to overcome our discursive thoughts and emotions, not to be overwhelmed by it. When we train our attention to be one and present with each breath, then that's an effort to overcome discursive thoughts and emotions. And through preliminary meditative practices like breath meditation, then one can gradually begin to slowly maybe change the practice to meditate on impermanence, and then slowly on selflessness. In this manner, one begins to develop their meditative practice and techniques.
gomjegora siksazu unjumu gona kharini chu gomgora ra tidinga gomlala shu marame cha nin gotom in thanila mon lasigra ra tananga gomla thazde la.
So be very careful. Even though all of us do practice meditation to some extent, then don't say that you are on the path of meditation just because you meditate on breath, impermanence, and so forth.
Nyemajala azde saga dala dichir dembashige deshikor shira tidita tidinga zikiji ma tanga zishila ma jishide tidigala ani tanga zitne ma shende ani mishik laduchi kope semba tanda bado kundro che line samala chibu shu yesarta ade korang da ngapechi ma toni to chamen de songsan jidusra ani mane ko kundro pang chamen de sang dulasra yo 가상아 콘도 친구 나인데 다다가 베디 콘도도 베 짜인 빵 차인서서 상 빵차 샤라스라스 되는 배 아버레래라 저도 콘도 빠는 응원해 오라 아주 수이나 빵 투네 야버라 다이네 처럼에 제 마테 보면 돌래 콘도 라이 젠셔라 기시다 처럼 줄로라 가사갈란도 제 테네 단도처럼 셈바란자 되나 아니 오늘 배 아버레래 jelako kaachena hamsan dewachu.
So many years before, during the holy month of Sagadawa, we had a introductory class here. Many years ago, during the month of Sagadawa, the holy month of Sagadawa, we had an introductory class here. And at that time, we didn't have a translator. So I was trying to teach on my own. And at that point, there was a participant who said that I think that I have overcome the affliction of anger in all. Huh? So the participant said that he thinks that he had totally overcome the affliction of anger from its root. And he said like he feels very calm, tranquil, and peaceful. And then I said, it is indeed very commendable that if you do not become angry and you feel peaceful and calm. But maybe it might be the case that you didn't face the challenging conditions which can give rise to anger. And maybe that's the case. And I didn't hear from him after that, so I don't know what really happened there.
시당한테 진도 차이나 컨트롤이나라 아니 시카리는 아직 카레이네 파게디 내기 째세기 유디티온도 단단가서 방투나 능문에다 배체 토라 야보라 와 먼저 점저 참아지 시딜린자도다 지사야 통야 참만디 아니 참만 나사메 근데 지도가 다가서 컨트롤하는데 말아 챈지거라 때 챈지 되서서 뜻이 만디와다 소소도 소소이냐 거이네 간다지만 아니 가서기 님부터 마투나 아니 오늘 치 다다 치도고 말아 so 오늘기 치바지네 된대위 가 님부터 거서 시들리디가 님부터 다 텐투나 당원에 마든 생각이 들어오나 또 보노라 어떤으로 시대.
So it is important to understand that true spiritual practice is cultivated in the face of challenge rather than when everything is going well, when everything is going as you expect it to, and you are in a conducive environment and so forth. Because that is where the true challenge lies. When you meet a challenging condition, a challenging circumstance, which can generate these afflictions, which can make these afflictions arise within your mind stream. At that moment, if you are able to really remain calm, not given to these afflictions, then from a spiritual perspective, that is exactly what we call a hero, someone who is able to overcome the true enemy when they do arise, when they do present themselves in front of us.
선생님은 송당지도 또자 니마 투데 치베주스 와 아니 쟁이 토도 버데 타메바 아주 든데 체문이 봐 간트도 이라 나서 치발라니 인지민지 다와 아니 이거만 그런서 취치게 년에 지기라고라 안 잠자지 또자라디 딱 가라도 저다다 사야 아니 니마 틀라디 니마다 딱 지차도 강에 메 봐 든데 지리 인디가라 트라디보도 인디가라 아니 집에 쳐봐 인도 냠네 쳐봐 인도도 체 아니 강에 지체도 아니 타메 바샤던
So that's why in Tibetan we have a saying that when you are well fed and then you are in the warmth of the sun, then you take on the appearance of a true spiritual practitioner. But at the slightest inconvenience, then you turn into an absolute beginner.
When you think you're already enlightened, spend the weekend with your family.
상제소 삼삼 중나스라 소소 낭미냠도 dunda 직당다 아니 하고 그랬어.
대배하네. 네 콩카들. 네, 네버래. 심어지 아프디.
Where is Terry? No.
He's good. Fine now. I don't.
네, 그 데보도 데보레.
No. 시신하고.
Is he aware that we are continuing with the sessions after 2?
Okay. 알레.
강아 동이 코랑 그랬어.
야야, 아니 그거. 아니 봐. 이거 줘야래.
Questions? Any more? Tini nganzugi lamden la shajora. Lamden la dizomba ni khasang dishija dizomba di is yansembo dot sources. Nganzugi lamden la dizomba ta thonglam rang la shagyora. Di enjogon dishiji chuntu gore bes.
thonglam 가져가서 다 참아 거라.
지.
그게 나한테 다가 다시 말하지. 나로 라야. 람데라라사 지다 람데기 파타시 터드네 단나가서 밥 딘로이마 람 리버 두바 닌진란 따스마 코에라.
So did you note down what exactly did we discuss when we are discussing the four truths? So when we were talking about the fourth truth, true path, then we also talk about four characteristics. And if we reflect on these four characteristics, then we begin to realize that true path must be posited as the path of seeing. Because a true path, in effect, must lead to true cessation. That's the first characteristic.
통남기 천시로 오셔. 라. 근데 딱 맞아 통남 지기 천시 천석이 시도도 가르스나 다음에 무슨도 또베스 샹센 토남바 추진라와 다디 간데주라네 아니 람게 남바 인데 다 람 가르치는 레라나 안데 타바 드리버 치베 람 비시르스 람 가르치는 레라나 근데 심전하지다 이제 타바래 드리버 치베게 람 비시네 아니 가서 람라고 레스라 드리버 치비 비시르스라다.
So when we go, if we discuss this again, then when we are talking about the truth of the path, then herein the truth of the path is posited as the path of seeing, because first a true path must lead to true cessation, and true cessation herein refers to cessation of afflictions and the underlying ignorance, and only at the path of seeing one is able to overcome afflictions and the underlying ignorance. And why exactly must the path of seeing be posited as the true path or as true path? Because the path of seeing affords us the opportunity to escape samsara or to become free from samsara. That is exactly what true cessation is.
Pena tende chance tholam bade karesana ani kone nyomo bege lam ta nyembo do ra nyembo chibe nyomo ji is nyembu lam be shirle ko jinje de da tende thon chance tholam bade ani thon karsa kar nyomo nganzo nyomo ta kande je wa ina dozula ba nyembo ten thuegi tin bi chane yang chi sha go resra ani deola karasana teche nelu musundu tobe chesa nelu musundu tobe es goni la shenje malo pa duber chibi la mi to sama duje de ko wa teche ani ola dunge tang so nyomo sawa ne seber chibe la yin bishi tende gi jinse tinzula tene ani kola tanda thonam la da shanda thonam ba de chim.
And another way to think about this is now in our spiritual path we must cultivate a spiritual antidote that can effectively help us overcome our afflictions and the underlying ignorance. And that spiritual antidote is cultivated at the path of seeing, that insight into the true nature of reality. So as such, the path of seeing is posited as the true path. Do we have further questions?
One more, yeah. So there was this thing I was listening to about merit, about how in Buddhism something about accumulating merit. Like I was listening to a teacher and he said something that if you're doing good actions but you haven't taken a vow, then it's not registered as a merit. But if you put a vow into it, for example, you're not stealing or you're not killing, but you don't have a vow, and if you say, I vow from today till tomorrow or something to not kill or not steal, that is when you start accumulating merit. And I was just really amazed by that, so I wanted to ask if that is true.
Mogi ni nganzogi tsosa la jera tsoda sonamsa la gewa du sonamsa la edila mogi ni chaja dala nyendo buji nyinsra nyintunda buji tinala ni lama do giginra ji khala edila na churangi domba male ba dosra churangi tsosa la jera ti yomares gewa duble tsosa la di yomaresra ni churangi kisi domba do jilena sra da Dharingne yana sanyi baduina, nonyi baduina, na chigime, ni chigime lana domba dalena sra. Ani tepara la churangi ani give leda dubna ani tsosa gi ores. Temena tsosa la di kamore la. Tende ki jaji kosons. Di demba ina ai mais.
Al de pena korangi ta pena soro mache nara. Korangi ta na so chigime. Inji mi domba lengo malta. Tende dala da ra. Ine chanangi domba len ta pena chanangi namdi sunche sege yo mare. Right. Can I massive bade chana di word de na segi me samne katanga tamja ji shabi gone tando di sunwe na tele geo cha layer mato kana ge so tanga color so machi wa kelen ro chit dombar je lene ani massive ji shini geo sa te ne ta mare ha 그러게 so much 니 칼로타 나랑 지금 매선 수수수기 지켜는 저 이제 라마살라마 지기 넘버로 슈고한데요. 이네 계속 근데 쉬바지야 이제 손에 이마 집어체. 라. 배는 가서 미사먹고 잡아줘 로데고 말아. 라. 이네야 땅에 그게 매라 잡아자기 매 주마시기 매라 비가니 아니 대다 만게 간로이나 아니 겨 마사이. 한 덤발레 비가니야 제와이나 님이 마야 돼. 라. 근데 순거.
So that is not exactly the case. It is not the case that we have to take a vow or we have to take a vow to accumulate merit. That's not the way it is. But it is indeed the case that if you take a vow from someone else, or even if you take a vow unto yourself, not to engage in negative actions such as stealing, killing, and so forth, then the merit that you accumulate from that is much more profound, as opposed to not making that promise, as opposed to not taking these vows. That's the case. Now, because it's not the case that all of us just goes around killing and lying all the time. That's not the case. But by restraining ourselves from not killing and lying, we do accumulate merit. But if we take a vow to live by an ethical code of conduct, to never engage in lying, stealing, and so forth, then when we are able to restrain ourselves, then the merit that we accumulate from it is much more profound. Now, that being said, it's a double-edged sword too. It's a double-edged sword too. When you take a vow, and it's good if you are able to abide by it, you are able to live by it, then the merit that you accumulate is much more profound. But similarly, if you take a vow and then you transgress this vow, engaging in killing and so forth, stealing and so forth, then the negative karma that you accumulate from it is much, much more graver.
No, good.
I have some confusion around not killing and whether that refers to directly killing another being or also includes, like the passive killing that goes on every day and implicates us in our lives.
Tene nganzugi sochobala di kola chiwa chiyesra. Migiwa sochobala di tegar ani sosorang pa shugnen sochobala di chibu sochoba tsigiwa resra. Yana ani june sochoba chiyora. Sosongwen so sochobala chawa di mazamnya ani june ani sochoba ki chawa di la ani shugyo na tiyan sochoba tsugiyo res.
네. 배는 가서 소주 배는 단단 가서 랑가도 덤부로 세고라 소체도 지고라. 내가 또 군우요 말에. 당가도 소체발라 담보 소소기 군우 주고라. 아니 좋아장고라. 아니 다른 죽라. 정은 주순 창바질라 소체기다 차상 창조로 오시라. 이는 잠장가서 수수마지나 소마지나 미신발라 소체가 땅기도. 어디 소소되는 저거여다. 미 디바사 주고라. 배는 가랑이 세고서 디바체 얘기 세워 땅아 만들지 철다나 교교 저런 파인 것은 저 장무라 미니를 디바스다 아
So there are many ways in which the fulfillment of what we call the four basic conditions of an action, whether the action fully bears the karma or not. For example, we talk about, with each of these non-virtuous actions, we talk about the four conditions of basis, intention, preparation or the act itself, and then completion, taking satisfaction in the act. So, when we think about it, when we are walking along a path, we many times are actually engaging in the act of killing, but we are not really aware of it. We stumble upon insects, and as such we kill insects. But at that point, maybe the intention is not there really. The action and all is there, the basis and the action is there. But maybe there is no the intention and the sense of satisfaction or in the act is not there. But similarly, it is not always the case that one has to directly be engaged physically in the act. for that to constitute an act of killing. For example, if you order someone to kill on your behalf, then both of you share the negative karma, because it comes from that intention that you develop. And then you order someone else to do it on your behalf. So as such, you share the karma. So now, when we look at how the Vinaya, the ethical code of conduct for spiritually ordained people, explains the act of killing, then it really explains it through whether an act of killing fulfills all these conditions or not. So, for example, it might be the case for the complete karma to manifest itself, for one to accumulate the complete karma of engaging in the act of killing, then all of these 4 conditions must be met. The basis, one must be unmistaken with regards to the basis, one must have an unmistaken intention, and one must actually engage either directly or not indirectly in the preparation and the act itself. And then finally, the completion of the act. One must take satisfaction in the completion of this act. So if all of these 4 are complete, then you manifest the complete, you accumulate the complete karma of killing someone. Now, as opposed to that, it might be the case that one might have the intention to kill first, and then one also actually is engaged in the act of killing too, but there is no sense of satisfaction at the end. There is a sense of regret as opposed to a sense of satisfaction at the end. Then maybe there is a difference in the gravity of the karma that one accumulates. And similarly, one must also be unmistaken with regards to the basis. For example, it could be the case that one develops intention, engages in the act of killing, takes complete satisfaction in the killing, but comes to realize that instead of killing Tashi, one has killed Tundup. Then there is a difference in the gravity of the karma one accumulates. So it really depends whether all of these 4 conditions are fulfilled in the act of killing or not. So maybe now we move on with the root text itself. Let us explore 1 or 2 more verses. Because after this, we have a whole session for question and answer.
Tatupa naasa kar lamla su chibin debu zobar yonsun zembe cheji se tjeji ta chuni tje la da tmi ni shada ani ne de ne tmi de su yonsu cheba te ani sanje naji se cheji köshi jeba chasta tende jeba yin la digala ta tombo tje chuni de ya chuni de ani
So now, verse number 88, that's where we left off in the last, at the turn of our last discussion. So the ground of the qualities of Buddhas, the fruits of training fully held in hand, the transformation when perfectly completed is given Dharmakaya as its name. So through training and practice, one eventually overcomes the contamination, the stain which obscures that Dharmadhatu within us. So at the point, through training and practice, one is able to transform that stained or contaminated Dharmadhatu into stainless, uncontaminated Dharmadhatu. At that moment, Dharmakaya, the truth body, is actualized.
Tadi jima de la kharana bhasha letters sami chesta bhasha letters sami cha khoi bhasha sang de yus chene kan de sami chap khangi chene shebar nu la sta tadi la kharle de na ni bhasha le trovis tv le tanga zo treba gi lo la ra sami che lo treba chama ta lo na do de tan le se de gi sami che ba res khoi bhasha trovis lo de chang sam de yus ra ani chuku se chune kondu sam che de chuku chune ani kondu sam che sta du kondu la ra ani chenje ji so lo khangi le de chenje lo la da khangi se chuku chune tachi de se shebar minus la da
So now moving on, 89. Samsara's tendencies are ponderable. Freedom from tendencies is not. You are completely inconceivable. Who could ever have the power to know you? So we look at the other translation. Free from latent tendencies, you are inconceivable. Samsara's latent tendencies, they can be conceived. You are completely inconceivable. Through what could you be realized? So tendencies herein refers to, in one way, karmic imprints, latent tendencies, karmic imprints. And from another perspective, it is referring to that innate tendency that we have to conceptualize things. That innate tendency that we have to conceptually elaborate the object that our mind engages. So now when we look at the first two lines, it is talking about the fact that true nature of reality is beyond conceptual elaborations. And whereas the karmic imprints that we have accumulated in samsara is actually just that, conceptual elaborations. So if you look at samsara's tendencies are ponderable, conceivable, because they are conceptual elaborations in their nature. Yes? Then freedom from tendency is not. Freedom from those conceptual elaboration is beyond concepts. Right? Then you who are completely inconceivable, you herein referring to Dharmadhatu, the true nature of reality. The true nature of reality is beyond concepts and words, beyond conceptual elaboration. Who could ever have the power to know you? Now this is a little bit mistranslated. Through what could you be realized? So this true nature of reality must be realized directly as it is. One cannot employ true nature of reality, employ a certain sense of any kind of conceptual elaboration to get at it. One must come to directly perceive true nature of reality, because the Dharma herein you is referring to the Dharmadhatu. The Dharmadhatu is not realized indirectly through conceptual elaboration. The Dharmadhatu must be directly perceived as it is. Yes.
Tene ta gochi thambadra ngagi choyu kalendes ambo kanji choyu mens yeji shebe tojawa kaya rong la sha tse te la da ta di pa de na lo la de la da nga gi chi ju shi ngo bo sa ke le de ba sa ra zung zen ta da ang bo la de la zung zen chi so ang bo kun ji chi men tende ta zwa dan ze ba la ja tende ang bo kun ji chi de ma re es tendam chi si ye shi tendam chi ye ji shi be to ba cha tendam ta ye ji shi be to ba cha wa sa 아니 취지 끌라 아서 전담지 해주라 소바 가양스 가야 무run와스 메베 가야 무run와 메베를 루인라 가라 루와 텔라 샤츠 때래 다들 아니 그버치바다 되네라.
So the next verse makes this even clearer. Beyond the pale of speech entirely, and not an object's senses, powers grasp. Realizing you takes the mind's awareness. I bow in praise of all that you embrace. So the first line, beyond the pale of speech entirely. It's beyond words, the true nature of reality. And not an object senses, power grasps, outside of the range of any of our sense consciousness. Because the manner in which our sense consciousness work is to apprehend objects, form and so forth. So it is beyond that. And realizing you, coming to directly perceive you, herein refers to the Dharmadhatu. Realizing the true nature of true nature takes the mind's awareness itself, pure awareness. And I bow in praise of all that you embrace, because this true nature of reality pervades all phenomena.
Runjin jubi luni chis luni chilu ra sanje sebo tajen nam cheji tenji she chis chenyi tongba tong chiru ne la da tadi ne phane la garshe na runjin pen salam runji dubela ko runji le dra salam runjin jubes lula har sheba tenyi chis sanje sebo tajen da kida chemodra ani sachuba sa Toba nams, Chuji tenji ye shijis, ra. And Chuni, that the Chuni cheese, Mubu tomba, Chuni ji, Mubu tomba, ra. Mubu tomba, Tonga, Chuni, San, Tipper said that,
So, moving on, the illustrious heirs of the Buddhas, by following the path step by step, with the primordial awareness that attends the cloud of Dharma, can see emptiness, the pure mode of being. So the illustrious years of the Buddha refers to the bodhisattvas, the realized beings, the noble beings who follow the Buddha's teachings and practice by following the path step by step. Now step by step herein refers to the spiritual path and the different grounds, the 10 grounds that we talked about, and how by walking these steps of the 10 grounds, and at the 10th ground of the cloud of Dharma, then one is able to actualize the pure awareness itself, which sees the true nature of all phenomena as emptiness.
Kansa senne rep tu pes kore zene nature ne pema chembe rangshen chi ten la tene re ne jirus la da tadi ki kala da kansa la da saje chi se shage wan ko wa kan se senne se rep tu pes kore sima le se nature ne se yehi ji se tabi da yehi ki tabara yehi ji tabi se hawa chu ji se yin ji medo pema la shay pesha ra medo pema chimbu se rangshen ji se ten la tene red ne jirsa medo ki se dama se renchen temi red barwa deba chavi se sindru chen de ma sa chi shambat da
Sinyamdo sungshan diktu. Koni ko somnyamdo sungshan dikda.
Sindru chen de deba chavi sindru chen ji is chenbo tela meto pema meto pema tema yisa namba konde yonsu koros ra tandale maza telisa namba konde.
So then moving on, 92 and 93 now describes the form of enlightened beings. The moment enlightened beings, the moment they achieve true enlightenment, complete and perfect enlightenment. As soon as mind has utterly been cleansed. So utterly been cleansed, when the mind realizes its true nature of pure awareness, then it has overcome all forms of afflictions, all forms of obscurations. So as such, it has been utterly cleansed. At that point, samsara's caged confinement broken through. So at that moment, one is no longer bound in samsara, because one have already overcome the cause of samsara itself, affliction and the underlying ignorance. And then assume their rightful place upon a wondrous lotus flower seat, utterly surrounded on all sides by lotus flowers, many tens of millions, each endowed with tantalizing anthers. Their leaves are light with many precious gems. So this is the form that an enlightened being takes. Seated on a lotus throne, surrounded all across by flowers, gems, and so forth. So if you look at the representation of enlightened beings, then you always notice there is a lotus throne. And that dila pedoji jumsen jiora. Pemala ne degoeti. Pema damne chejani damne
pema na jere. Chitang azo chibu tambado ani azo chesa sacha koyu chibala de na ra. Azo michi shiji nyamdo dro indi ne chibu tamachi yoina. Azo chi indesha shana koyu chesa gi yuji tena chido do. Chibu tambado kona di nalo le koyu di na yoba ina koyu gi chen ngo ma resra. Nyeri chadang zo ta chegi mare la. Pena meto pema sani de ani dambala de china zowi rangshi de chi kandakola nanu ngoyajira labana karuchu njadora ine dinde meto pema sangshi ye dongwa ra ti ani meto pema de damba na chi bare de khora ye che unde gale be de khora kalor damba chi me ba chama indo ho chora o dinde la dile peshar.
And there is a symbolic meaning behind using the lotus as the throne, because it is said that enlightened beings, once they achieve these noble beings or these bodhisattvas, when they achieve true and complete enlightenment, then they take it upon themselves to come into samsara, to work for the benefit of sentient beings. But even when they come into samsara, they are not bound by samsara. They are unaffected by the stains of samsara, so to say. And the reason that the lotus is used as a symbolic representation, as a throne, is because even though the lotus grows in a swamp, in muddy water, but when it grows, it grows uncontaminated, unstained by mud and the swamp. So similarly, enlightened beings are like that.
Pena tati ngato zamzam peshan la dene shir khoyin dang ji khoy chama ma tesra pema de ane kasan meto dang le chebe dang thuma goy ma la wala naja jun ngana san tan shi so nan do digala ya mi mampo jinjam de de hakoda ra this mi khashi chi kan kun samala kan ji bar ta mi chu jinjam do de na chilanga la kan thira ina saya thoye na desai na kan chi pachi jaina khashi be di semba masu ne be kan di be chimbu shu zo da kashi ta oge ta ngado shilol do wara de do jinjire desa dende jana digre saya dende jana digre dojun choshe do da chik ani phage chinjeri chana chesa ge shijile na kondo langsa ge shijile na shira mala je do ra chi choba khawa do na khola kangi me de jo chi miss da tu na ta ta chi paro de de jida tilungune ngado ta di meto pema pe shaba na shi de resan koran chidang kondo che go se ge yuda chakpa che go se ge yuda kanji chi yoba ine 되게 쇼라만 따다 데투다 아 되게 하나 저 하면 땅아서 레진데 저 하시 켈레니지나 저 하면 바짝 인기라 그까지 가다는 디디 가시 가다는 디기만 근데 도 띵아서 장장 알아서 배션의 파스마 집어 많이 계속이야 산노 땅에 계십니다
So now it is important to maybe not just to take the words of the scriptures when it describes that enlightened beings are like lotus flowers, even though they grow in the muddy swamps. When they grow, then they bloom unaffected and unstained by the muddy swamp. It is important maybe we try to personally reflect on this with our own lived experience. For example, it might be the case that there are 10 people in a group who are making the same journey, and then they go through the same inconveniences, they face the same kind of problems on the road, but then there is a difference in the reaction to these inconveniences, these setbacks. Some people are easily triggered immediately, become easily angry, become easily irritated by the smallest of inconvenience, whereas in the same group, people facing the same inconvenience and setbacks, they do not have the same reaction. They are able to kind of adapt to the situation, make sense of the situation, not immediately become reactive, angry, irritated. So with this kind of example, we can begin to appreciate that indeed the mental state that we have, the mental state that we cultivate in the face of challenge, it really does decide our reaction and whether we have an experience of suffering or whether we are able to take that experience on the path of our spirituality. Now, from a Buddhist perspective, this kind of reaction comes from the latent karmic imprints that we have from our previous lives, wherein if we have cultivated an effective spiritual practice in our previous life, then in this life we do not have such extreme reactions to inconveniences and setbacks. So, have you ever met or come into people like that who are able to adapt to situations, accept situations, do not become easily triggered and irritated? So, if we really think about it, it is indeed the case that we do suffer more sometimes as a consequence of our reaction to a suffering than the actual suffering itself. And in this, we do suffer as a consequence of our reaction because we hold on to a pronounced sense of suffering, an extreme sense of suffering. We look at it as something that is only unique to ourselves. And as such, we are unable to look at the situation, look at the situation and process it wisely at all. Because when we have a pronounced sense of suffering, hurt, and so forth, then the immediate reaction we have is to blame something aside from ourselves. We never look at our own reaction as something that can be changed at all. So now, from a Buddhist perspective, one is advised to think about our sufferings as our karmas from a previous life ripening at this moment. So as such, one doesn't really blame outside circumstances. So as such, the sense of pronounced suffering, hurt is mitigated. And now, if you don't even think about next life and so forth, it is important to look at that pronounced sense of suffering in our reactions first, and to overcome that is important. Deshamara. Sure. Kamanga Should we stop here and break for tea? You have a question? Churches.
So whenever the Shimala says Ra,
Huh?
what does it mean?
Ra means it is like that. It is it?
Many people question this.
In Hindi, you say henna.
Henna, yeah.
Same.
Henna.
Henna.